At ExileCon 2023, GGG shared more details about Path of Exile 2, alongside revealing the newest league and expansion for Path of Exile 1, called Trial of the Ancestors. In this league, you meet Hinekora, one of a few Kurui gods that you haven't actually killed yet, and allows you to enter a tournament in the afterlife. This is the Trial of the Ancestors, and if you've played something like Dota Auto Chess, maybe Dota Underlords, or of course, Teamfight Tactics, then the gameplay should look a little bit familiar with you, because this game mode is clearly inspired by an auto-battler. But unlike a normal auto-battler, where you just kind of get to watch your units clean up, or sit around being idiots hitting the wrong target, in this case, you get to be one of those units on the field. When you're killed in battle, you'll respawn shortly after that. However, if your totem is killed, you die instantly and won't respawn. So you'll need to defend your totem while trying to destroy enemy totems. Death is merely a short setback, since you're already in the afterlife. How bad could it be? On that note, if you're playing in hardcore, Hinekora's benevolence extends to you as well, and you will not be able to perish for real while in the afterlife. To build up your team, you'll need warriors, and 3 so far have been revealed. The turtle, who's slow, very tanky, but doesn't move quickly. Enemies will have a hard time killing him, and he won't be able to get anywhere fast. So you want to use him somewhere that's going to be full of enemies, possibly at a choke point, or leading the front lines. On the other hand, the Tuatara is balanced, being quick and deceptive. It should excel at sneaking past the enemies to destroy their totems. On the other hand, another more defensive unit is the Goliath of Night, a disruptor who specializes in intercepting enemies and preventing them from destroying your totems. But these are just a few of the warriors which you're going to be able to use in the Trial of the Ancestors League. Win a match to gain favor, and much like the gold that you get in other auto-battlers, you'll be able to use this favor to purchase upgrades and somehow progress the gameplay to hopefully win the tournament. One of the things you'll be able to buy with favor is field items. These have some sort of special effect and they'll persist throughout a match if not already activated. The tournament is in a double elimination style. So if you lose once, that's fine, but if you lose twice, you're out and you'll have to go again. You do this by collecting silver coins and giving them to someone a little bit familiar. As it turns out, Navali's visions may not have been quite as outrageous as we thought. She could have just had Hinekora whispering in her ear. But if you win the tournament, you'll increase your ranking with the associated tribes. There are 10 different Kurui tribes, each of which have their own warriors, and a special reward called skill tattoos. These skill tattoos enhance your passive tree by replacing basic attribute nodes. As it turns out, everything in Path of Exile has a skill tree, including the pathing nodes on your skill tree. Each tribe has their own unique tattoos, and so far we've seen the effects of a few of them. The Namahu Firewalker replaces small strength passives with 8% to fire resistance. The Loyalty Tattoo of Utula replaces a small strength passive skill with trigger level 20 Summon Spirit of Utula on taking a savage hit from a unique enemy. The Ramako Scout replaces small dexterity passive skills with 2% increased movement speed. The Valako Storm Conduit replaces intelligence passive skills with adds 1 to 7 lightning damage. I kind of wonder, how much damage do you get to do if you stack all of those? The Honor Tattoo of Hatungo replaces small attribute passives, meaning it should work on strength, dex, and intelligence, with 1% increased reservation efficiency of skills. Or maybe it only works on all attribute passives, in which case it's pretty darn rare and difficult to fit in. Then the Honored Tattoo of a Wise Man replaces a plus 30 to intelligence notable passive skill with plus 1 to level of all intelligence skill gems, but it's limited to 1 notable tattoo per attribute, meaning you'll get to use an intelligence, dexterity, and strength version. If this wasn't enough, Trials of the Ancestor also reward an item called Omens, which seem to be somewhat inspired by D2's charm, because Omens sit in your inventory waiting for an effect to happen, and then they trigger. Omens are pretty rare, and as a once-used item, you shouldn't be carrying them around frivolously. The Omens we've seen so far are Omen of Return. On death, this Omen is consumed and a portal to town is created. Omen of Refreshment. Upon reaching 25% life, this Omen is consumed and flasks recover all charges. Omen of the Soul Devourer. On leveling up, this Omen is consumed and you gain Soul Eater. With an Omen like this, who really needs to do Soul Thirst shenanigans? And Omen of Fortune. On using a Chance Orb on an item, it will become unique if possible, and this Omen will be consumed. Chris confirmed that the Omen of Fortune functions similarly to the Trash to Treasure prophecy. They are not adding junk uniques to block things, so there's going to be some deterministic ways to create high rarity items. Last but not least, there's a new currency item, Hinekora's Lock. This currency allows you to see the result of the next currency item used on a craft. So, for example, if you were wondering, is it worth Exalt slamming this incredibly expensive craft that I've done? Use a Hinekora's Lock to divine the results before doing it. It's currently unknown if you're ever actually able to change results though, or if you just get to see them and cry at your fate. GGG also revealed 16 new Atlas passive keystones. Cassia's Pride says that Blight monsters in your maps take 75% less damage from players and their minions, but Blight towers and their minions deal 300% more damage. Which means that you're now playing a true tower defense. I don't know if this has any benefits outside of roleplay, but maybe it's good for really weak builds that actually need to rely on the towers. Destructive Play causes Maven to summon 1 to 3 additional bosses when witnessing map bosses. Modifiers to the final map boss in each map also apply to these summoned bosses, which is really interesting and means boss rushing is going to be absolutely insane. After all, why do a map with 3 twinned bosses when you can do a map with 6 twinned bosses? On the other hand, if you're an expedition enjoyer, consider Extreme Archaeology. 200% increased explosive radius, 100% increased placement range, and monsters spawn with 10% of missing life. Number of explosives, though, is limited to 1. In other words, you get a big boom and that's it. This one you'll have to be careful of so that you don't position things over multiple damage immunities that affect your class. On the other hand, Lucid Dreams allows you to properly interact with and craft Vaal side areas. They're no longer corrupted, and they've gotten a nice little rebalance. There's even some unique Vaal side areas now. Last but not least, GGG also revealed Speaker of the Dead. Tormented spirits in your maps can possess players for 20 seconds. Tormented spirits in your maps cannot possess monsters. That's right, instead of having to kill the ghost after it runs away and hides in a rare, now you just let the ghost hide in you. You then bring it along, and touch monsters in the worst possible way. This is probably a meme, but I'm also sure someone's going to do it. Alongside the new Atlas passives, there are also new support gems. Corrupting Cry turns your war cries into Corrupting Fever. Returning projectiles is Vengeant Cascade. I guess this is the Vengeant Cascade nerf we were expecting. Fresh Meat summons the Butcher to immediately annihilate your foes. Okay, that would be awesome, but it's not quite what's happening. Instead, Fresh Meat causes minions to gain Adrenaline, crit strike chains, and damage shortly after they've been summoned. Flamewood causes your totems to shoot mortars at enemies that hit them. Frigid Bond turns supported link skills into an icy mist. Enemies caught in the beam are dealt cold damage over time. Locust Mine supports attack skills usable by bows or wands. You now throw mines that shoot your projectiles at your target when detonated. So I guess this is effectively wand miner support. And Sacrifice turns everything into Dark Pact or Forbidden Rite, causing you to sacrifice a portion of your life and gain chaos damage depending on the amount sacrificed. I guess in this case, the distinction to be made is it's more similar to Dark Pact, because you don't actually sacrifice life on Forbidden Rite, it's a hit that damages you. In other big news, Forbidden Sanctum is also returning with the new coat of paint. To interact with a Forbidden Sanctum, you'll need to obtain a Forbidden Tome, and this is essentially a map of the floor, not only including your exact progress, but the boons, afflictions, and rewards selected. Furthermore, the Forbidden Tome is sellable even when partially completed, which really takes the risk-reward concept up to the next level. Chris mentioned players might want to buy a Mirror of Calandra tome, but it could be that someone's down to 1 resolve, and that's not going to be a good time. However, if you're able to play well enough and complete a no-hit run, I'm sure buying up bad tomes will be extremely rewarding. There's also been a rebalance to boons and afflictions because your primary defensive stats now impact your resolve as well. Armor allows you to mitigate a percentage of the damage to your resolve. This scales with your armor, and it's unknown if it scales with the enemy hits. Evasion gives a chance to avoid resolve loss entirely. And I kind of wonder how high you can get this. Will it go up to 100%? Probably not, but even 95 would be absolutely insane. And Energy Shield essentially works exactly like Energy Shield, but for your resolve. A recharging temporary health bar that can be knocked off as you take hits, but comes back as long as you don't take them consecutively, which means there's going to be a lot of interesting space to explore by stacking things like armor and Energy Shield. It kind of makes me think, will Aegis Aurora builds see an uptick just because that whole archetype happens to be good in Sanctum? Sanctum relics are also now available again, and they're tradable, though Sanctified relics and Lycia's invocations are not returning yet. To complete a Sanctum run, you have to kill Lycia both in her regular form and also her Herald of the Scourge form, which means you need to get ready for some epic boss fights. But I'm sure anyone that was looking to make an original Sin build is probably pretty darn happy right now. Just make sure you get good and dodge all those skills. We've also got 14 new unique items tied to the League mechanic. Each of the 10 Karuri tribes have their own unique item which embodies their essence. These items are earned from defeating that tribe in battle during the Trial of the Ancestors tournament. Hinakora, the goddess of death, offers 4 additional uniques to tournament winners. And so far, 3 have been revealed. They haven't quite been identified, but you can kind of guess which goes with which. Bound Fate quickly rotates between 6 different buffs, and is likely rewarded by Hinekora. Overall, I don't think this is super useful because while some of the buffs are very powerful, half are positive and the other half are detrimental, and you're going to spend more time building around the detriments than benefiting from the positives. Arohangui's Tending, I'm very, very sorry if I mispronounced that, I probably have, is a unique coral amulet. Life flasks used while on low life apply recovery instantly, and mana flasks used while on low mana apply recovery instantly. This is a good way to get instant recovery, and it has no level requirement, which makes me think it's going to be a low-level unique that will be used while leveling. After all, at low levels, this is going to feel really good, but it's probably not going to see much use in the endgame, since the amulet slot is very powerful, and honestly, there's some pretty strict competition here. Last but not least, Kitava's Hunger, a powerful endgame item that I'm really excited for, because Kitava's Hunger says that you get, I'm guessing, 8 to 1,000 maximum life if there are no life modifiers on other equipped items. Now, as we learned from the Life Mastery, no life modifiers doesn't just mean no max life. It also means no life regeneration or even life-tagged penalty modifiers. No recoup either, by the way. This life bonus is quite significant. Many builds only have 4 to 500 flat life on gear, and using Kitava's Hunger frees up a lot of prefixes for the rest of your items, but it's also pretty limiting. You won't be able to use life modifiers, which means no recoup on gear, and you can't benefit from life regeneration on gear either. So big upside and big downside. I kind of feel like Kitava's Hunger is the more interesting reworked Calm's Heart that we just kind of never got. But of course, what would a new expansion be if there also weren't Ascendancy reworks, this time featuring the Chieftain and the Guardian? The Marauder's Chieftain Ascendancy got a full redesign, whereas the Guardian kind of got a new fresh coat of paint. Personally, I think the most interesting branch is Salio, Cleansing Water, and Valako, Storm's Embrace. Modifiers to fire resistance also apply to cold and lightning resistances at 50% of their value, unaffected by Ignite. And Valako says, modifiers to maximum fire resistance also apply to maximum cold and lightning resistances, which is really, really interesting, because this is essentially melting of the flesh without any of the downsides of wearing melting of the flesh. And you can flesh and flame this over onto a Juggernaut, maybe a Righteous Fire Juggernaut. Something tells me Pox is going to be really happy about this change. Just stack up 90% fire res, maybe put on a Rise of a Phoenix early, and all of a sudden you've got 90% all elemental resistance. Though as a note, unlike melting of a flesh, it won't negate things that say plus fire res minus lightning res. Arohangui Moon's Presence recoups 10% of damage taken by totems as life. Totems regenerate 1 life per second, per 4 of your life regeneration per second from regeneration. Totems taunt enemies around them for 4 seconds when summoned. Hey, if you wanted something to fire a bunch of mortars and splinters, maybe consider this. Namahu, Flame's Advance, now causes non-unique jewels to apply their increases and reductions to other damage types to fire damage instead. The Tukohama, War's Herald branch, has also been reworked. Trigger level 20, Tawoha's Chosen when you attack with non-vol slam skills or strike skills near an enemy. And skills from your equipped body armor are supported by level 30 Ancestral Call and level 20 Fist of War. If you like slamming or striking, this could be a very good option for you. Ramiko's Sun's Light. Nearby enemies have no fire resistance against damage over time while you're stationary, which is a really interesting one, because you're going to be stationary a fair bit. If we're talking about hit stuff, doesn't apply, but Righteous Fire Jug might want to steal this. And Hinekora, Death's Fury. Enemies you kill have a 5% chance to explode, dealing 500% of their maximum life as fire damage. Big pop occasionally. Overall, Chieftain is looking super tanky, but I can't help but feel like his strength is going to be other classes stealing his nodes, as opposed to you using him yourself. We'll see though. I'm sure there's going to be some interesting applications for a lot of these things, and some builds just don't fit onto a Juggernaut or Berserker. But Chieftain is not alone, because the Guardian also got some reworks. Unwavering Faith now says, auras from your skills grant 5% increased recovery rate of life, mana, and energy shield to you and allies. With Radiant Faith still granting armor equal to 25% of your reserved mana, and energy shield equal to 10% of your reserved mana to you and nearby allies. Time of Need, every 4 seconds remove curses, and regenerate 100% of life over 1 second. Oh, and elemental ailments. Radiant Crusade gives a level 20 summoned Sentinel of Radiance, and 10% of damage from hits is instead taken from the Sentinel of Radiance's life before you. I'd assume this is a better Herald of Purity. With Unwavering Crusade, you have a 25% chance to trigger a level 20 Summon Elemental Relic. I'm pretty sure I found Octavian's League starter if anyone was wondering. because I'm gonna bet that this is a Summon Holy Relic, but even better. It also procs off of ally kills, which is pretty interesting. And if you've attacked recently, or cast a spell recently, Bastion of Hope gives you and all nearby allies 25% block. I kind of wonder what nearby means in this case. Is it the close nearby, the far nearby, or the nearby in meters? Because in PoE 2, we're actually going to have that. Finally, Harmony of Purpose, a Link-specific node that is very confusing. Elemental damage with hits dealt by allies between you and Link targets is lucky. Allies between you and Link targets have 5% maximum elemental resistances. Enemies between you and Link targets cannot apply elemental ailments. So I guess now we're running through maps in formation. Hold the line, guys. We need to make sure these enemies are super nerfed. And that's about everything to expect from Path of Exile 3.22, Trial of the Ancestors, or at the very least, everything we know now, because there's going to be lots of spoilers and news coming out over the next few days. Be sure to get subscribed, otherwise you might end up missing it. Don't worry, I plan to cover all the new skills, supports, items, and Atlas passives as GGG reveals them. And hey, if you want to look back over any of this stuff, I have it all written out over at MaxRollGG. Huge thanks to Facefoot, who also put a ton of work in this article to get it out on such short notice. Link to that will be down below. Now, if you're looking for something else to watch, maybe you want to catch up on all the Path of Exile 2 news, don't worry, I've got you. It'll be up in the card down below. Maybe you're feeling a little nostalgic, want to look back at the builds that I played during the last league, I've got that for you too. If you want to know what some of my thoughts are on the best builds from 3.21, stay tuned for that video, get subscribed, turn on notifications, and of course, before I go, a special thanks to my patrons and channel members for their continued support. Links below. With that said, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on Trial of the Ancestors? Are you a big auto-battler fan, or is that a genre that never really grabbed you? For me personally, it's definitely one that didn't grab me because I like taking a more active role in my video games, so I'm actually looking forward to this a bit more. But thanks for watching, congratulations on making it to the end, and I'll see you again sometime soon.